highly suggest we take a look at much more in depthly, and I know you guys have been, but I'm asking even more to do more, because water contamination is a big deal. It's our kids' future. Many years, we all know these liners, the Environmental Protection Agency says every single liner fails. There's not one that doesn't. So we can all pretend at the end of the day that there's not going to be problems 20 or 40 or 50 years from now, but a lot of people don't care. I think we need to care more. We need to look at the lining and things like that. And then you read some other stuff that says, hey, there was tears in the liner. Uh-oh, what are we doing more? And what are we doing about the public? What are we doing? Those types of things. And I think not enough information about the hazards of this stuff are getting out to the people at all. And then I'm shocked. I'm still in just utter shock that if I open records request any one of you guys, then at that point, am I going to have that archived? I question that. And I'm about ready to do it, because that's ridiculous. Come on, simple government. We're subject to the law. Do it.
Okay, is there anybody else out there who has a comment or a question? If not, we'll close public comments. New business.
We have the same protocol as the last few meetings. We have an item on here for an update on the pending LGRL groundwater monitoring program, but we'll just touch on that as we go through the other materials. You all have the checklist, the summary of the report, so we'll work our way through that. I'll read you the comments that are in the handout, and then we'll turn it over to the landfill to talk in more depth about those topics. So the first tab in your binder is just the quarterly overview, so I won't comment on that at all. We'll hit those items as we go through the subsequent tabs. Second tab in the binder is the November 2018 deviation report that identifies 2 instances of missed or erroneous data. The first was on November 7th, 2018. Data was missed due to a computer reboot. And the second occurred on November 28th, 2018 due to a malfunction of the data logger. If you could, guys, explain what happened and what's been done to correct it.
Yeah, the permit says you got to continues to record the temperature and flow, and there's a test button on the computer so we can make sure everything's working. And as every month, we'll do a shutdown just to ensure that call-out system works, just to reboot, to refresh everything. Because we had problems when we first got online if we didn't do that reboot. So we do that, and if it gets caught in that 14-minute interval and it doesn't record that data, we have to record that as a deviation from the permit. System was running, you can see it start back up and everything, but just since it landed on that 14-minute interval, it's technically a deviation. The second one was actually along the same lines. It was a restart, but it was a restart of the system, and a lot of times the flow meter will get moisture, and it'll record a higher flow just when that slug of moisture comes through as recording. And we quantified that as erroneous because it wasn't representative of the amount of flow actually going through at that certain due to the moisture. The meters are made more for dry gas, and when you restart the system, it's more of a wet gas.
Anybody have questions or comments on that one? If not, tab 3 is water supply well monitoring results. The document documents well monitoring of 7 wells that occurred in October of 2018. The samples were taken on October 5th. There were no confirmed results exceeding preventive action limits for any of the wells. In the well PWJ, which I understand to be owned by Advanced, vinyl chloride was detected at a concentration that exceeded the preventive action limit, but was below the laboratory's limit of quantitation. If you could explain what the difference between those two things is.
Yeah, well, the levels that we look at for vinyl chloride are extremely low. They're at the levels that the lab can even detect them, so they're down that low. What they did in this case was there was a detection of it, but not able to essentially quantify what is that level at. And at that same sample, there was a duplicate sample that came back that did not detect it at all. So essentially, is it a false positive or is it really there? It's continuing to be looked at. It's at a very low level of what the detection limit came back, essentially at the limit of detection for the laboratory and analysis methods that are used. So it's continuing to be watched. So that's why it's not recorded as a, being at the preventative action limit. It's continuing to be watched because it was not again duplicated.
To go on, in the same well, PWJ, other contaminants were found, but at concentrations below the preventive action limits, and should say below the results found in April and June of 2018. That well is going to be sampled again in April, as I read the report, and everything else will be sampled again in October. Is that right?
That's right.
Okay. Anything to add on that? Any questions on that?
Yeah, where's PWG?
It'd be on the west side of the landfill, just to be the second property down to the north from Rasho Road. Does that help? So you see where Rasho Road is, Rasho B. Rasho B is the landfill entrance.
Okay.
It'd be on the west side of Highway B, and the north side of Rasho Road is the second property.
Is that the house that was tore down?
Correct.
Yeah. You expect to leave that as a monitoring well?
That's a discussion right now. Everything's there currently, like the well is not banned.
Who was heading to the northeast that there was, I'm just wondering what, I mean, this well shouldn't really be a factor any longer, should it?
Well, I can answer that. This gets back to some of the discussions we had earlier with the removal of the LGRL. We may see some exceedances come up in some of the wells right after that waste was removed. We talked about that all along. This is an anomaly. We're taking a look at that and watching that. So whenever you get these results, they do look at them, what is the cause of that. And because they're at such low levels, below the detection limits, it's continuing to be watched, as well as the other wells in that area. You have to remember, this is not a single well. This is a well program well list that we're looking at throughout the whole area.
I'll make a comment. With vinyl chloride, the action limits are so low because the vinyl chloride is so toxic. That's why they're so low. And for good reason. Virtually all the other volatile organic compounds become vinyl chloride as they quote-unquote ripen. And the result that they detected, 0.19, was 1,000 close to the limit, 2/10. It was 1900s rather than 2/10. So I mean, it was getting pretty close. It's worth monitoring, and sometimes, in fairness, vinyl chloride can show up if the people testing it don't clean their test equipment well, because vinyl chloride can show up as a solvent. So, but it's worth looking for. It's the worst contaminant we can find on a groundwater contamination is vinyl chloride, because that's where it all winds. That is the worst of the worst. So I agree, we have to keep watching it until it doesn't show up anymore.
Yeah, we keep watching it, and one of the keys is the duplicate sample. When I say it's a duplicate sample, there's two samples taken at the well at the same time. One of them has it at these very low levels, and one doesn't. When we get to these trace quantities, you're exactly right. There is lab contamination that does occur from compounds used as part of the process of monitoring. We're talking about very low levels. So it is continuing to be watched.
Any further information on the new well that was being dug up by Antonio Money property? Has that shown up? Has there been any results from that yet?
It's on the Oxford property right next to the
Right.
Tony property. And the last results that I'd seen
find water, it's not, well,
Yeah,
we
they
dug
got
it,
slow now.
It is producing water.
we dug it as an outlier to see if Spoon got to it. Thanks.
Anything else on tab 3? If not, tab 4 is groundwater monitoring results from July and October of 2018. The report describes groundwater monitoring results from those months. It identifies NR 140 exceedances, including various public health parameters, public welfare parameters, indicator parameters, and changes in water quality data. Please walk us through the report, describe each category and the significance of each of these types.
You know, I think one of the things we'll get back to, we've gone through this, times before, working with the DNR, submitting this data, but we are continuing to see results that are similar to the same levels that we have seen in the past. So we do go through the wells and the whole description, what we are looking for. The exceedances that we have, tables are in here. It's really best to go back to take a look at the table 1. The October 2018 results that we are going for. It does go through the different parameters as far as the chlorides, which we're looking at. You can see where we're at with the various parameters as far as the health issues. We are seeing, as I said, similar results to what we've been seeing before. I'm not sure how much detail you want to go through at this time. If there are specific questions.
Not for me, but the
The chart shows at least a few wells that far exceed the enforcement level on vinyl chloride. Those wells are, some of them are 001 MW 403. Are those wells active? Are those private wells still?
They're monitoring wells, the MWs.
Yeah, so there are a number of wells. How are those exceedances compared to, let's
They're,
say,
like
order before?
they kind of put it in the text. A lot of it's similar to previous data, from the previous monitoring events. There's some slight fluctuations, which you kind of are attributing to so far the removal of LGRL, since we're kind of flushing the system.
Are there any, that's just a general question, are there any active private wells that you know of that are showing contamination beyond exceeds levels that aren't being supplied with bottled water or, no, none?
Are we seeing any trends with these? I mean, it'd be nice to actually look. I mean, if we just have these numbers we're looking at in a specific slice of time, but to look where it was in the past.
Yeah,
to see
like
it's
in the last the LGRL investigation phase 3 report, they had the charts showing the trending. I can put those in again in the next book.
I would appreciate that. I have another question. On some of these, the quantification limit is actually below the enforcement standard. I mean, so how does that work? I mean, you can't, the enforcement standard is actually down, so it's kind of an interesting thing that the government would set a standard that you can't actually even test it.
Yeah, I'm not the lab expert, nor do I make these rules up, but when you look at it, when you do get levels that are so low, and it's like the well we talked about in DWJ, when you do see something, you verify that something's there, and then you get into a course of action. So when you do get down to those levels, you're trying to verify that it's there. And it typically puts a well into continually watching that to see where these trends go, as far as how those levels get set. and why based on a quantitative limit. I think sometimes there's a hope that the labs are going to get better technology, and it has been driven down over the year, what the detection limits and the quantitation limits are within the labs.
And we have some people in the audience, Virginia, but I will say, we knew this was coming. We solved the problem of the old LGRL, took the pressure off it, and there was going to be, the engineers and the scientists told us that for a short time you can expect the contamination to spike a little bit, and the contamination is there. Most of these wells are inactive, as I said. However, there is a plume of contamination that can either dissipate, it can ameliorate itself, or dilute itself to the point where it no longer becomes a problem, or it could possibly get worse. We don't expect it to get worse. But I've said before many times in the last 5 years that we have to keep an eye on this plume to see where it's headed, and if it is going to impact any other wells, or if it's going to impact, we go to a lower aquifer, a lower level in the ground, below the groundwater, where the other municipal wells are drawn from a level of 600 feet. Right now, we haven't had any evidence of that. But that's why we're monitoring this, and unless we see something, for example, in the Oxford, was going to be Antonioni property well, or some of the other monitoring wells, as long as it stays contained and it's not moving, I guess there's a problem there, but it's contained, or it's identified right now. That's why it's important to monitor, to make sure that we have wells dug on the perimeter of where we know it is, to see if it's moving anywhere. And I mentioned to the DNR representative, I don't know if there's one here now, they don't seem to have any employees lately. Funny, we spend a lot of money. Tipping fees for the DNR, I think it's $13 a ton. I think they'd be able to hire somebody to come here once in a while. But we did ask DNR to quantify and have more input into the contaminants and where and how they seem to be moving, and if they might cause a problem in the future. And we haven't, I don't know, that was, I think, 6, 7, 9 months ago, I brought that up, and then the representative was replaced. We haven't had any more information on it. Hopefully, nothing worse has happened. We hope to, the whole point is we wanted to solve the problem by removing the old landfill that was causing the contamination and repositioning it onto the cells in the new landfill, and the problem would go away. But we need to actually check to see that that has happened. And I would hope that the DNR will be more active in explaining to us that what we want to happen is happening.
We just make one comment on that, and just kind of for the new members and to look at. We did remove the LGRL, which was an unlined site, and it wasn't just the waste that was removed, because we did the verification. They were out there documenting the soil. We removed some of the hot spots, as we call them, where the soil contamination was the worst. So, I mean, that was removing the source of the contamination that's going to the groundwater. The groundwater contamination didn't get there overnight, and it's not going to go away. These things do take time, and I know we all want to look for immediate results, and all of us in advance, I would like to see that too. But you're right, we don't want to see it spreading out and going, and that's what we're watching.
Do you suppose it would be beneficial to have a well inside the plume and monitor whether or not it's dissipating? I think that could be of interest too, like if it's decomposing and going away on its own. I'd like, I'd like to see it.
Yeah, in areas, they do.
There's wells with exceedances or within.
Right, that's
The
why
ones
they
you
have
see
the
with the
exceedances, they are within the plume. So we have a grouping of wells that are within the plume, as well as through the different phases we've worked through, phase 1, 2, and 3 of the project. we've installed wells around, at that point, what we believe to be the extent of the plume to try to bound it. So we now have what we know that the plume is there. We have measured it, we continue to measure it. We now have wells surrounding that area that are not exhibiting hits in them, so that we basically have bounded the extent of the plume, and we'll continue to monitor that and observe hopefully decreasing trends in the contaminations within that plume area.
I understand that, that we have it stronger, but I'm talking about putting one in the center of the plume. Is that, did you have one there?
We have wells,
Yeah.
maybe not in the direct center, but well within the plume to be able to
And
measure.
I don't see a results of is it going away, or is it staying the same?
Let's get back to what Jake said, potentially if we send around that phase two.
We'll show you the graphs.
And it trends the data that we have from the wells within the plume. And it did, after relocation, show a spike, which was
I
expected.
understand that.
And it's tapering, that spike is tapered off, and it's become more of a constant. And what we hope to see next is it start to decline. The decline will take time, significant time, it's attenuation.
One more small point about that, the last time the DNR rep was here, we had talked about, he's talking about horizontal or sideways contamination. Although the plume can move sideways in the groundwater, can also become denser, move up and down. And the representative, she was tasked with doing more investigation about the vertical density of the contamination, and that hadn't been, there's been nothing further since she hasn't, the representative of the DNR hasn't been here, and they were going to investigate. If you have a 500-foot well, I think they're mostly 360, you can monitor how dense the contaminants are in the chimney of the well to see if it's, to do. And you can find out that way. I mean, not only does the plume move out and about, it can also move up and down. And that was, we haven't heard any more on that since March or April. So that's, I'm done talking about it.
Anything else on tab 4?
Yeah, just going back to Bob's point, would you feel more comfortable if we would try and have our council talk to the DNR to see if they can control somebody to get here?
Right, I mean, that was on the agenda 2 meetings ago, and they promised to send somebody, and then whoever came said that that person was transferred, and then the next time they said they're having hiring problems or something, I don't know. But I know that the DNR, I mean, here, a landfill produces fees for hosting. The towns get fees, the city gets fees. Those fees are in the area of anywhere from 5 cents up to $1.05. The DNR per ton. The DNR gets $12.99.7 per ton for this landfill. That's in the millions per year. You'd think. I mean, you'd think they could send somebody here.
I may be jumping ahead here with it. The DNR is going to send someone here to the next meeting. We're getting to that, the 5-year review. I think there's a question in your portion, but just dig into your.
We've been asking about, I talk too much, but I've been asking for that every meeting.
Yeah, I understand. We've been expressing that to them as well. The new person assigned to the RPRL project within DNR, the ISO, is going to attend the meeting. There's going to be.
We can expect, it's the DNR, one of the members of past employees of the DNR spoke as citizen comments. I mean, the DNR is supposed to protect the people from things like this and to quantify any hazards and to help the public understand the risks. And I don't, he's telling Mr. Glacier from the county tells me I've been asking for more than 2 months, 2 meetings, so it must have been, I'm getting a little overtasked myself.